stand up.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Hillside Student Community's 2019 graduation ceremony. Before we proceed to the main event, I wish to give a few thank yous. First of all, thanks to all the parents for your support throughout the year. You have contributed generously with your time and resources to provide help with Hillside's many activities and needs throughout the school year. Special thanks to our staff who make Hillside's fine program possible. Will you please stand as I call your name? Sigrid Brunette, Karen Sharpie, Laura Colacerdo, Emily Espinoza, Jimmy Garland, Leslie Howell, Jessica Irving, Lisa Conjuro, Rebecca Nick, Jean Gerard, Joel Snagel, Troy, Conrad and Suen Spence, and Julie Wright. Next, I wish to recognize our juniors, any of them who are here, because this is their last year of our full program at Hillside. They will be mostly going to Running Start next year under our supervision. If you're here, please rise. Nash Cordes, Matthew Ho, Sir Snail, Michael Southwick, and Rowan Sutton. Next year, this will be your graduation ceremony. Hit it, Gene.
Looking at the world in a logical way and forming words
words to persuade readers. You taught me the valuable lessons of life: friendship, heartbreak, success, and adversity. I'll admit it wasn't easy, nor was it supposed to be. For a while, I felt like a little girl, lost in the grocery store, wandering aisle after aisle, calling out, fearful, panicked, and confused. That's when I saw her, calm, relaxed, grocery list in hand, hands reaching out, leading me out of the frozen food to the front of the store. She helped me reach out to those I love. Friendships that have lasted through the thick and thin, family that has been a sturdy foundation from the start, and myself, the lost little girl who just needed some guidance. The little girl who knew who she was, she just needed a little helping hand. Hillside, you may not have prom, standardized testing, or big sports, but you have something better. Teachers who care, a community, but most importantly, life lessons. After 7 years, I found me. Whether you stay or leave, to those who are frightened or hopeless, reach out to your inner child. They need you more than ever. You help them, and they help you. Thank you.
Hello everyone, thank you for coming. Thank you family, friends, all of you, everyone else's family and friends, not just my own. We all appreciate having you here. I would like to recount my most important day at Hillside. It was a day that I remember fondly and very, very clearly. It was my visit day. Back in ye olden days of 2016, I visited Hillside as a prospective student. I came into the experience expecting it to be another visit day like the other private schools I had visited. Sitting there at another school, kind of engaged because I had no idea what was going on in the class, boring aside from being classified as highly Machiavellian. I still don't know how to feel about that one, so. As soon as I started the day at Hillside, I could tell something was different, a whole lot weirder, and I absolutely loved it. After my interview with Joel and Kale, I joined with the Spanish 2 class with Katie and the students who graduated last year. My Spanish was, at that point, lacking, to put it lightly, and I was extremely confused the entire class. I got out of that class one thing, that the excited kid with the curly hair was named Burbujas, or Bubbles in Spanish. That didn't help me much, but I knew it. The next class I took was in English. It was math with Emily. Although the students there were taking a quiz, so all I learned was, oh, yeah, I still have to do math. Joy. Finally, after that, we went to art, which, if any of you know me, I absolutely hate. I'm not good with art. You don't speak, but in a kind way. So I drew kind of a dopey-looking panda. It was okay, and that was about it. So what was the next period? Lunch. Okay, I can handle this. This is lunch, I got it. So at this point you may wonder, why am I recounting this day as such a monumental day for me at Hillside? All I had done was be confused in another language and a bit in my own language. Be shown that, yeah, I would have to take math still, and fight my mortal enemy, art. That's where lunch comes in, and that's what made that day extremely special. The rest of the day passed in a blur, and by the end of lunch, I had learned some people's real names, not their Spanish names, and had a fun talk with Chris and Reese and Lauren about D&D. After the end of break, during block, I had met another handful of people and really enjoyed talking to them. I decoded a fun riddle that Kale gave us and drew a very good picture of the Sword and the Stone because they were talking about the old Excalibur myths. At the end of that day, I was leaving school and I went, I'm excited, I can't wait to come back for my next day. Wait a minute, that was just my visit day. I would just go back to my normal life, sitting at home, at homeschool, being bored out of my mind. And I wanted to come back. By the end of that day, I knew I wanted to go to Hillside, and I knew it was a place that I would learn and love and thrive in. That day I walked into Hillside, the only things that could motivate me were sweets and video games. Now I learn because I love to learn, and I find my own motivation in the things I love to do. These past 3 years have been quite something. Rambunctious lunches, discussions on Marxism, rampant tea addictions, questioning our existence, and so much more. Just all in a day's work at Hillside, really. Spending the last year at BC has really highlighted the lessons I learned at Hillside. In math, our professor offered us some extra credit. He said it was going to be a biographical paper. I rejoiced. All of my classmates were questioning how much they really needed that extra credit. Who goes into math expecting to write a paper? I just got down to it, wrote a paper. It was very good. I was very happy with it. All thank you to Kale and my experiences writing 10-page papers on Kepler and Renaissance astronomy. The lessons were not also purely academic. Entering BC, I came in as a confident person who I knew who I was, and I was able to tackle the hiking workload with no problems. Now my time at Hillside is ending. I've loved it, I've hated it. It happens at school. But before I end, I just want to say a few thank yous to the people who have truly helped me along my journey. Thank you to Kale for showing me how to love knowledge and information, for how many interesting things there are in the world. Thank you to Jean for helping me feel comfortable not only as other characters, but also myself. Thank you to Brad and Reese for teaching me to understand and learn to love math. Thank you to Katie and Rebecca for encouraging me to push myself in and out of my own language. I would love to go on and thank all of the other teachers here for their work in molding me, but I think my other fellow graduates will do that for me just fine. Thank you to all of you who imparted your knowledge and passions to me and molded me into who I am today. Of course, a gigantic thank you to my family who helped me stay motivated and on track when I began to wander. And finally, thank you to all my fellow Hillsidians for helping me find my extremely weird inner self and helping me let it out. Thank you.
Change. It's a concept that's been on my mind a lot lately. I know the immediate reaction to that is, yeah, duh, you're about to go off to college. Of course you're thinking about change. To which I have several things to say. First, fair. I'm glad you all possess basic observational skills. But second, I mean it in a personal sense. The change from child to adult, and the change from broken to whole. The years preceding my arrival at Hillside were interesting, to say the least. And I mean that not in like this is the year I won my first $1 million interesting. No, it was more along the lines of that old Irish curse. May you live in interesting times. My parents had just divorced each other a year earlier. My education was in shambles due to a string of bad teachers. And the people I clung to most were often the most toxic. And that, coupled with a few specific instances of directed, malicious bullying, left me with no self-esteem and no people I could trust. And it changed me. It made me withdraw, huddle within, build an iron castle around my soul so that nothing and no one could touch it. It was at this point that I transferred into Hillside. In the long term, getting thrust into the Hillside atmosphere was the best thing to happen to me. But at that time, it was like stepping from a blizzard into a sauna with no preparation. With such a small student base and a laser focus from the teachers, it became much harder to go unnoticed, and you are far more frequently asked to step into the limelight. This limelight is far less hostile than the limelight at a larger school, but for little 7th grader me, it felt just as dangerous and uncomfortable. The culture shock was real and deeply confusing, and so I ran. When I ran from people who offered advice or friendship or even criticism, my only response was to blame them, not me. They were liars, thieves, who wanted nothing more than to hurt me, and even more damagingly, it was their fault because I was fundamentally unreachable, fundamentally wrong. I was wrong, a monster, a nuisance, and everything else people had told me for all those years. And that's the problem with walls. Walls, internal walls, don't work. You can make them as strong as you like. You can hide yourself as deep as you can, but in the end, they only keep you from reaching out. They're not a castle, they're a cage. And on some level, I knew that. I knew it was unhealthy. I knew it was hurting me, and I did nothing. I I sat in that cage for a long time because I felt it was right. And because I felt it was where I belong. If you build yourself a cage to hide in, it's natural it's going to be comfortable. And you can even trick yourself into thinking it's making you happy. But it's just a lie. A defense mechanism that does nothing but keep you pressed into the dirt. A place I thought I belonged for the longest time. However, over time that slowly changed. Through the relentless kindness and compassion of the students and teachers at Hillside, and by reading the stories I related to deeply from around the world via the internet, something slowly dawned on me. No one deserves that. No one. And so one brief spring morning, I decided I was sick of it and never looked back. That makes it sound simple, but it really wasn't. The cage keeps you from learning things, learning how to deal with people. So I floundered for a long time. I ended up working up to things in stages, in small steps. A hello here, a question there. I practiced making sure I didn't look down when I walked. And whenever I saw someone I thought was interesting in a safe space, I always made sure I would chat to them. And so, I grew and changed. And now here I am. Many new friends, one boyfriend, and one high school diploma later. I'm happy. So thank you, Hillside, for being the catalyst who made me what I am today. Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to say I absolutely love your guys' speeches and your poem. My name is Troy Renderos, and here I bear all about my formative years at Hillside. In 5th grade, I came to Hillside hoping for a change in my academic environment. In contrast to my experience beforehand with public schools, Hillside's supportive culture gave me the self-esteem to actualize my academic potential. From the moment I started at Hillside, all my teachers were invested in helping me strengthen my weaknesses and maximize my gifts, all while offering an equal amount of caring attention to my peers thanks to the small class sizes. In my first few years at Hillside, I made several strong and lasting relationships with fellow peers, as well as older students and teachers as well, all of whom inspired me. Over the years, though, some of my friends decided to leave Hillside, and while I was more than willing to become friends with new students, that cycle would repeat itself with newcomers too. For this reason, even I considered leaving Hillside due to its size. But the quality of teaching is truly what made me stay, knowing that I wouldn't necessarily be guaranteed that same caliber of teaching in a public school or any other school. At the beginning of high school, I chose to sacrifice having that larger social life in order to prioritize the quality of my education and a strong, tight-knit community. For that reason, occasionally a part of me regrets not having left for a social life, but in all honesty, I believe the pros of staying at Hillside ultimately outweighed the cons. Not only did Hillside's teachers educate me on the intricacies of math, science, English, and history, but more broadly and perhaps inadvertently, the value in skills such as judicious critical thinking and perceptive introspection as well. It's become my life mission to consistently use those invaluable skills that I have garnered from my maturation at Hillside. Moving on, considering that I've always taken a keen interest in humanities, I have tentatively decided that I would like to major in communications and potentially pursue a career in journalistic multimedia production. Though nothing is set in stone for my future, I acknowledge Hillside for supporting the discovery of my interests, passions, and goals. As a final point, some years at Hillside were more comfortable for me than others. However, the tough ones were really when I matured, learned more about myself, and acquired a great deal of insight about life. I would like to thank Edith, Dawn, Kale, Jean, Karen, and the rest of the Sherrard family, and all of the wonderful teachers, of which there are many, who have made my experience at Hillside more than worthwhile. Thank you.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Hide it under a bushel, no, I'm gonna let it shine. Hide it under a bushel, no, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. However, I'm actually gonna blow this one out. At the moment, I don't really want to let this little light of mine burn down the theater. You graduating seniors and others present who might be eavesdropping on my words to you might be familiar with this old song. There's some debate about its origins, but by at least the 1930s it became a part of American folk music and the African American gospel tradition. In the 1960s it was adopted and altered to become one of the anthems of the civil rights movement. Sorry, I gotta get some history lessons here. The trouble is that, contrary to the song's advice, most of us frequently hide our light under a bushel. I have a suspicion that, at least at certain times, we each feel like the outsider, and that everyone else seems to fit into the group. That even if you get away with it and deceive others, deep down inside, you are different from them. And that if they really knew who you were, they would reject you. I know that has been true for me. And I have increasingly begun to suspect that is actually the common experience. I have also come to believe that that inner person, that part of us who feels left out, is actually the true self. That in fact, that inner person holds the true gift, the little light that the world needs. You might have noticed that in most myths, legends, fairy tales, novels, and films, the main character is exactly that, the rejected one, the least valued, the youngest, the weakest, the different, the stranger, the oddball. Sometimes, like in tonight's play by Noel Coward, those characters need a metaphorical kick in the pants to start developing their gifts. However, this says to me that our heroes represent that feeling because it is universal. And because, in spite of the fear of rejection, we also wish to be that hero. It shows that the one who is different is the one the world needs. The one with a new idea, a better invention, a solution to the problem. However, we want to fit in because we want to be loved, which is a natural desire. So we sometimes hide our light under a bushel. In Age, Race, Class, and Sex, Women Redefining Difference, the writer Audre Lorde said, "Too often we pour the energy needed for recognizing and exploring difference into pretending those differences are insurmountable barriers, or that they do not exist at all. This results in a voluntary isolation or false and treacherous connections. Either way, we do not develop tools for using human difference as a springboard for creative change within our lives." And just so you noticed, you history students, I cited my sources.
In her author's note to Home of the Brave, her book about a Sudanese refugee who finds his way to America, Catherine Applegate concluded, "Someday you will find yourself adrift in a place where you feel you don't belong, with people who don't understand you. You'll feel alone and lost. And you'll be absolutely certain that you will never, ever belong to the world again. You don't have to be a refugee to feel lost. It happens because we are human, and because life has a way of changing the rules when we're not looking. But if you're lucky, someone will reach out a hand when you're most alone and say, I've been lost too." Let me help you find your way home. A little later in her note, Applegate goes on to say, "Today, tomorrow, sooner or later, you will meet someone who is lost just as you yourself have been lost. And you will be lost again someday. And when that happens, it is your duty to say, I've been lost too. Let me help you find..." Sorry. Let me help. Sorry, I don't know why these graduations always choke me. I've been lost too. Let me help you find your way home. Your duty, yes, but your honor too. Applegate, 251 to 253. Outside sources. You graduating seniors might have noticed in U.S. history class a few years ago that most of those who came to America started as outsiders looking for a safe place to be themselves. Of course, as we also saw, some of those outsiders became insiders with power that at times they misused against others, that they insisted remain outsiders. But America is composed of a mix, a blend of people from every place and every background, many of whom still have to work hard to have their differences and rights recognized and valued. We are not done working toward our early stated ideals that all are created equal and are endowed with unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We still need to strive toward a more perfect union. And that's where you come in. If you know you are loved for who you are, not for what a group wants to turn you into, you can grow and give and return that gift to accept and value the differences of others. Moreover, knowing how it feels to be an outsider, you can give the empathy to seek justice for other outsiders, whether it's building tiny houses for the homeless, following up on your commitments to others, filming a personalized documentary on Alzheimer's, being a community builder, drama, scholarship, or donating your time to those in need. This is the main goal of Hillside, to be a loving, safe place where students can discover and accept their true selves, their gifts, and in the process get an excellent education, in order to give them to the world and to recognize the need for justice and liberty for all. To see the value of the gifts of others and to help them also to shine. On a side note, I hope you will all come to our 50th year celebration in July to meet some of those other alumni and find out what they have done with their gifts. This is not to say that that inner self or that gift is perfect. Far from it. But it is the light we each have. So we can continue learning, growing, moving, and working instead of being frozen by guilt, doubt, or fear. We need to forgive those flaws in ourselves and others and act imperfectly. This world needs your action. Even though you may not be completely ready, and you won't do it perfectly. But I know that you will give your gift. As you are graduating, you will, of course, receive your diploma. But I also have a small symbolic gift for each of you. Something that perhaps you can place in your window. Something to shine out on a dark night. To let others know that somewhere there is a welcome, a home, safety, love, and light to share. Laura and Karen, will you join me up here? Jane Davey has demonstrated scholarship and insight in her work at Hillside. She is thorough, has integrity, consistently following up on her commitments, both academic and social. She values relationships and is kind and accepting. She chooses to focus on the best aspects of others and to extend grace for their faults while holding herself to high standards. Her drama medal is in recognition of her love of and engagement in so many Hillside productions, including tonight's, which I hope you will all see. I present to you Jane Wen Yen Davey. Lempriere is helpful, highly organized, and ambitious. Dedicated to his studies, he is a curious, hard worker. He has integrity, cheerful spirit, willing to give time and energy to support his school and his community. His scholarship medal represents only one aspect of his character and talents. I present to you Ellis Mercer Lempriere. Chris Paquin looks out for others. He is kind, seeks justice, and is a community builder. His enthusiasm is dramatic and infectious. You can count on Chris to pull through on his promises. His drama medal reflects his enthusiastic involvement in many past Hillside productions. I present to you Christopher Robert Paquin. Jordy Renderos is another student, who cares about justice. An enthusiastic community builder and emotionally aware, he has often organized kids to write notes of appreciation or consolation to those who need it, giving concise and appropriate guidance when they did not know what to say. He's a student with scholarly insight and a wonderful public speaker. His community building medal represents one of his many gifts. I present to you Jordi E. Renderos.
See if I can get that on.
After the ceremony, I ask if you will all please join us in the main school building for refreshments. Thank you for attending Hillside's graduation ceremony.